This is the Mad Conservative Crime Fighter, and we're out here at the Firefighters Lake Club. There's Comic-Con here today, and today I have brought in the young thriller Derek Moss, who is in a match at Art of War, and in the type of match that is not one that I particularly care for all that much. In fact, every time I hear the stipulation even stated out loud, I scream at the top of my lungs something. But you're in a Loser Leaves Town match against Tom Arson. But before we get to that, because this might be your final match in PWA in November, and I'm not too thrilled about that. Well, I'm not too thrilled to be losing any member of the PWA roster right now.
Right.
I remember from the very beginning you started. You walked into the Nosebleed Seats Pro Wrestling Training Center that was organized by Chris Cooper and Jaron McCaffrey.
Yep.
So, I mean, what got you into the wrestling business?
Oh man, I didn't actually pick up wrestling until I would say probably middle of childhood. I'd say probably about 10, 11, somewhere around there. I happened to be flipping through channels, and I found an episode of SmackDown on, and I was like, oh, I wonder what this is. I gave it a look.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, about 2004, 2005, right when SmackDown was at their peak, their rise.
Mm-hmm.
And then ever since then, I mean, you know, we did what kids were. You know, we backyard wrestled. We wrestled in gym class. We'd throw down a mat. We wrestled with pens and pencils in class, acted out moves, and I came across, heard on the radio that on QLZ at the time that this show called New Midwest Wrestling was running in Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I lived in Kincaid at that point, and you know, I was like, oh well, that's close. You know, it's not a WWE show, so let's go and let's see how it is. And I can't remember exactly what I think that it was November Rain of 07. I think because that's when my ticket stubs at home. That's about when they start.
Yeah.
So either I lost the one before it, or that's when the first one. But either way, right around 2007, I started watching, and I came to shows every month. Every month I was in the crowd, and it felt like, hey, you know, these guys, they look like they could be local. They look like they could be, you know, in a house down the street. So what's stopping me? But I never put much thought behind that, because I was young. I was still 15, 16 years old. And one of the guys I went to school with, he actually was involved with New Midwest Wrestling. He was a manager at the time, by the name of Billy Bass. Don't know exactly what he did, because I never saw him actually on a show. He was always at the commentary table. But he said, hey, if this is something you want to do, you can ride with me to Decatur and meet Jaron and meet some of the guys, and you know, see if you want to do it. And you know, I showed up the first night, and we were in the Skywalker. Is a beautiful building, and there was a ring that was setting up in the back corner, and he asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said sure. We'll see. And the first time my back hit the mat, I was like, well, that wasn't so bad. So I got the taste for it, and I just kept on running with the ball.
And your very first match happened to be a handicap match.
Yeah,
3-on-1.
Yep. It was a triple threat that turned into a 2-on-1 double team, I guess.
Oh yeah, there was a triple threat before it.
It was CL Slick and Randy Ray at the time.
Now known as Micah Pope, CL Slick. After a few months, he went to the military and never
appeared again.
No,
Haven't seen him since.
we tried to get him to come back, but he moved away, and he's been in the military for 10 years. Long and illustrious career.
That match was September 18th of 2010. And I didn't know what to expect when I broke the curtain, because those two guys were in my training class. Mm-hmm. So we trained together 2 nights a week, and they said, "Hey, you're ready to go." And I was 17, 6 months into training, and I was like, "Sure, I guess I'm ready to go." I didn't know what I was
Butterflies.
getting into. Oh, 100%.
Butterflies in the stomach, yes.
They came up with
stage fright.
the Young Thriller gimmick 5 minutes before I hit the curtain, because I still hadn't had a moniker. Bruiser, who was doing announcing, came by before the match before me and asked what they were going to call me, and I said I had no idea.
It's just the Young Thriller, and they didn't use your real name
until the first
later.
time I went to Kincaid. And then,
yeah.
Everybody knew me as Derek, so they were going to keep running with it. But yeah, as soon as I broke that curtain for the first time, it was, I didn't know what to expect, and I was blown away, because I was nobody, and the people, with Mauve being in the crowd, he helped. A lot of
every wrestling show has helped with Mauve in the crowd.
Right.
Almost.
Well, you look at a lot of things, and a crowd can actually help persuade the other members of the crowd inadvertently. They can help them get over, because you don't know, maybe it's a guy who's new into the territory, new to the state, just new in general, and if someone watched, like Mauve was out watching us train at least one day a week for 3 or 4 months there at the end, so he knew us, he knew all of us, he knew to help.
Yep.
He knew to say, hey, these guys are going to try to make it, so I can persuade the crowd by cheering or booing for him, and the crowd will pick it up.
From there, and after you made your debut, the comparisons were made almost immediately to somebody else that looked very similar to you. You could have been brothers, except you were born 10 years apart.
Yeah, exactly 10 years. He came out one night for training, and Chris Cooper looked right through both of us and said, "You two, you're it." And I didn't even know, because he just came out there he was maybe there one or two times, and I said, okay, sure, I'm just breaking into the business, so I don't know anything. But we took off and we ran with it, and
became the crew.
The first time I bought gear was for my first match, and 2 months later I had to buy crew gear to match Eric Logan. So that was a lot of fun. Eric's a good guy.
Then on there, you ran with the crew gimmick until, pretty much the closure in New Midwest. You did a little bit of it in PWA.
Yep.
Your early years, you also wrestled. I believe you wrestled other places. I don't exactly remember where.
There was a lot of one-timers. I wrestled for PWE as a solo brand one time.
Yeah.
We didn't go a whole lot. It wasn't until we went down to Arkansas for over those 6 weeks in a row that I really started seeing that there was places outside of just here, there. And then I met Matt Cage and Christian Rose and Alex Castle, and we went to all southern Illinois, the east side of Illinois, never anywhere up north, but it was new promotions at UWC and UWC a couple times in a couple different buildings.
Yeah. And
IWAU, that's the one I was trying to
IWOW,
Yep,
yes. Where there's was a training school, still is a training school, just in a different town. There's 50 feds in Illinois. 50 or so. So New Midwest going away, eventually transitioned over to PWA. Well, actually, you did PWA and New Midwest at the same time for about a year before.
I was a lot of people don't know this. I
may not know it.
I was very unsure. Like, PWA had approached me. I officially debuted in PWA, now that I saw the DVD, I knew it was in July, but July 7th of 2012 was my first match. But PWA had been trying to get a hold of me for probably the early part of 2012, like from January on, and I'd always turned them down because I wasn't under the impression of I wasn't taken to the liking of other promotions in the same town. I didn't want to start that early in my career.
Well, I was also a New Midwest super fan.
Well, and I didn't know that a lot of the guys, like when I walked in the door at PWA the first time, all of the New Midwest guys were running, mostly all of them were running, double shows. Guy Smith was running both, Spencer Powers, Rick Mystic was doing here and there.
Yeah.
Sage Ramsey, the whole list there was all the guys that were in the locker room.
It's kind of
mostly
like
PWA were mostly New Midwest guys.
It's kind of like PWA became New Midwest NXT.
Right.
Quasi NXT.
Right. Well, when New Midwest folded, there was a lot of it was an easy transition because there was a place to go for all of them. All the guys that weren't wrestling anywhere else besides New Midwest, they just had to drive a little bit further up the street, and PWA was right there. So, but they approached me a lot, and I didn't want to step on any toes, and I got a phone call to be a replacement, and I was like, well,
rest is history.
Sure, yeah. And here we are now. It's 6 years later, and I'm still here.
I mean, I was at the very first PWA show, and I freaked. The first PWA show is massively different than what you see now, and you would have wondered if PWA was even going to last more than a few shows after that first one.
Was that at Nelson Center, the very first one?
Yes, and there's people in the ring that shouldn't have been in the ring. It was a bizarre thing. I never thought I'd even be involved in PWA as much as I am now.
Yeah, well, looking back, hindsight's 2020. When you get there, I didn't think that I would be in the spot that I was when I started wrestling for PWA. But I saw another smaller company that was looking for the rise, and then once the Kwanzaa Hut went down, we went to the JC Center. And I mean, we were getting good. We were getting good numbers there. Not at the beginning.
Not at the beginning, yes. Somewhere along the way, something happened, and
there were some experiments that failed.
They
were trying to run Friday nights at 7 o'clock, and they couldn't get anyone there because you get off work at 5 o'clock. You're not going to expect people to drive all the way over there for a show.
Springfield, of course, is a fickle town.
Right. And Friday shows in general don't tend to draw a lot unless they're promoted out far in advance. It gives people enough time to get ready. But
even then, it's no guarantee.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, towards the end there at the JCs, I mean, we were getting welded. I mean, they were pulling chairs from the locker room in order to get people to sit down. Like, they were standing in the aisles, they were standing outside the building, just trying to look in and watch. And it was nice. It was very nice.
From then on, started winning championships.
Yep.
You took the belt from Guy Smith first, I believe.
Nope. Tom Arson first.
Tom Arson? Eventually. Well,
Eventually.
big belt.
Yes.
What became the big belt?
Yes,
Well,
from Guy
and
Smith.
that obviously is the current belt.
Yeah.
You won the regional heavyweight title from Tom Arson, but the regional heavyweight belt became the big belt because the middleweight heavyweight, the white one.
Yes, the white one. The original heavyweight title belt.
It didn't look as good as the regional belt, so they retired the white belt.
Yep. And that's the story that a lot of people don't know. Is that's the reason why that's the big belt now. It's just my belt looked prettier at that point and looked better to show off. But you know that PWA heavyweight title had been around for
Since the beginning.
Yeah,
Sort of.
and it had been tore up bad.
Not like the tag belts were.
Not anywhere near.
Like the
were-
tag belts, and
oh.
I even repaired the tag belts a few times. We finally got new tag belts. And you even, after winning, Guy Smith, you merged the belts with after taking it from Guy Smith. Tried at the Illinois State Fair, came up short, went to the well too many times, jumping off the top rope to drop an elbow.
And I learned, it was being in front of. I had never wrestled for a heavyweight title before then, and not to say because I had wrestled in the Midwest a couple times for the Central Illinois title.
Yeah.
Once against Tyler Pregel, once against Tony G, once against John Magnus. So it's been, it's not like I'd never been in the championship match before. But you're going in front of something as big as the state fair, but also my first shot at the heavyweight title
And the main event.
right, and you're looking at, and guys are looking at you like, hey, you just took my spot, let's see what you can do. And I come up short, but it was always that stick in that I almost had Guy Smith, and that's a phrase that dates to this time. Anyone who gets them almost never end up following through.
Then Grand Wrestling Spectacle, which will let you gather that up a second. Grand Wrestling Spectacle 6, I believe, is when you finally got the belt off of Guy Smith.
Yes. Unreal. That Grand Wrestling Spectacle was one of my favorites, not only for match but for crowd. They packed the place, and it was the whole night. They were involved, and finally pulling the belt off of Guy Smith was a crowning achievement, if I can ever say it. Just the build up to everything, to finally getting that big key victory. I was champion for almost a year to the date already, but when you win the secondary or the mid card championship, however you coin the phrase, whenever you win that title and you do that work, you are usually the hardworking, the blue collar champion.
Yeah.
But you're not the big flashy champion, so you still have something to prove. When you're the heavyweight champion, you are the guy. You've already proved that. But until you prove that, that's when people, they start to hold you under the microscope and say, hey, you either can get it done or shut up about it, because we want to see results. We don't want to see you talk about it. We don't want to hear you say, oh, well, I'm going to get him this time. Or, that's why guys you see that have 4 or 5 chances at the title, people get sick and tired of it, because it's like the boy that cried wolf.
Yeah.
You hear somebody get on there, oh, well, I almost had him, but you never did.
Yeah.
And I was able to conquer that, thankfully, the second try. Just incredible.
You can get away with it on the house show circuit like WWE. A guy will have multiple shots at the title
Right.
at different house shows, but they're not in the same city. They're all over the country.
Right.
Rarely do you see them get the same shot in the same town
Right.
in a short span of time.
Right, and especially with that, it's easy to promote. You get guys that are in there, and with the amount of guys that are on like a WWE show, there's only so many guys. Just like on any indie show, there's only so many guys that you can run at the title. So when people say, "Oh, well, you've had shot after shot," well, there's not a whole lot of other options. You can't just give the guy who's never won a match in years. You can't just give him a chance to say, "Oh, well, we have to have somebody new in there."
And there's a spot where we're coming up upon it where we talk about something like that went on, but we're not quite there yet.
We'll get there.
Actually, we're getting very close because back in, one of the Brawl Wings, you had a new challenger to the belt, somebody that I guess transitioned from the light side of the Force to the dark side of the Force.
Yes.
And that's no racial component there, by the way.
Right,
but
right.
Casey Jackson decided to turn evil and screw Roscoe out of his championship opportunity or Worldtoberfest win that he actually did win. And he just KC entered himself after the match was over.
Right, and especially somebody like KC, no one saw that coming because for the longest time, the Money Making Jam Boys was where it was at. They were the biggest good guy tag team around. They didn't have to win all these championships. They were just they were those guys, KC and Madman. And for what it was worth, he said that he felt that he was always in Madman's shadow and he was never appreciated and all this. But you come to a point where it's you're finally getting to a step of he wants that title. He's going to do what it takes.
And it's not out of the ordinary for him because I saw the same thing. He did the same thing with Shane Matthews, his prior partner.
I mean, you never know. You never know the true intentions of people, and that's the big thing. But I told everyone over that entire thing, that the entire time that I held the belt, if anyone wanted a shot, I was there. I was the target. The target was on my body. All they had to do was come ask for it. But it's.
And he even passed up an opportunity because there was that one show down in Auburn where Guy Smith was the champion at the time, and then he's just open challenge to anybody in the locker room. And it's like wrestler after wrestler came out. I saw KC sitting in there. He didn't come out.
Yep.
And Madman he could have came out to soften him up for the Madman, his partner. He didn't do that.
It's just it was such a shock at the time because with the whole. It was the first 31-man, which was manipulated because after the 30-man was already over, the 31-man got announced. So.
Oh, and somebody installed himself in the presidency too.
Right. But at the end of that is at the what's coming next. I guess I'll let you set the table for.
Well, it's about a month or two later. I think it's Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I believe is when he faced off against KC.
Art of War. First.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. It was Art of War.
Yep.
KC won the belt.
The infamous brass knuckles incident.
Committed a third or fourth degree felony in the state of Illinois that you cannot possess a pair of brass knucks because that is considered contraband in the state of Illinois. Somehow he's not been arrested for it, and now somebody else who's used them recently has not been arrested for it.
Yes.
We'll get to that later.
Yes. And in that, that night dropped the longest reign of any singles champion in PWA history.
Yeah.
I don't get big on stats, like random stats, statistics, stuff like that. I don't get hung up on goals like that.
Yeah.
I like to keep my personal set of goals what I have set, but I don't get too big on the, oh, hey, by the way, you're approaching, uncharted territory. This is so many, because it's always a jinx. You always tell somebody, hey, you've held the belt for 500 days, the next person's going to beat you. And that's just how it goes. And I actually did the math and calculated it up and got told by Billy Alexander at the time, told me that the reign of Blake Steele was 525. And we had a show 2 weeks prior in Hillsborough that I actually, at midnight after the show, after I defended the belt that night, had broken his record.
Yeah.
Which was, I'm still in awe. It didn't seem as long as it did when I was on my roll because, every day was a new day and a new challenge ahead. And I just never, when I sat back and reflected on it, that's when I really realized, hey, that was a long time holding the title.
Then eventually.
Yes, and then Art of War, the brass knuckles, as invested in a match, I've been beaten. I've been beaten quite a lot in my career, but that just took the sportsmanship out of the whole business. When you're in a match that you cannot win, I put him down for the brainbuster. We got no ref. I put him on the outside, and he resorts to grabbing a pair of brass knuckles to split my head open right between my eyes. And now he's at a big advantage because he went from losing the match to now causing me to bleed, taking me out of my game, introducing a weapon which
concussed you.
It spells the end. All that momentum that I had, it just tanked it, it derailed it, and the rest is ugly history.
Then you were chasing Casey for the belt, and shenanigans were being played left and right.
It seemed like every show after that, it seemed like there was something. I wrestled him, I think, 2 or 3 shows before I won the belt back. And it seemed like every single show, there was somebody or some buddies, more than one, that was out there costing me a match. I remember we had a match at Blood, Sweat, and Tears. We had the infamous time limit draw match where Archie rang the bell because the time ran out
because his man was about to lose.
As I had the 3 count ready. Yeah. And then at Jacksonville,
matches
at Jacksonville, I had the match in the book, and Sage Ramsey came out and destroyed me on the stairs to end that match.
Yeah, he took his payday though.
Yeah, yes, I did. I got a good dose of revenge, but it seemed like for 6 months there, it was fighting more than just one person for the belt that you should have just had to fight the one person for. Every time it was 1, 2, 3 different guys, Archie himself, and the whole lot. So.
And we mentioned earlier, there's very few guys who are having the same main event match several shows in a row, and there was a time where you and KC fought in multiple. Now this 2017, there was a span where you wrestled KC in multiple weeks in a row, and actually the belt flipped multiple weeks in a row.
It was.
You won it back in Grand Spectacle 7,
yep.
And then
the following show, I guess a couple shows. We did the Jacksonville and the Take Me Out to the Brawl game. That I didn't wrestle Casey. Casey wasn't there. He took a couple months off. September was Day of Reckoning, and I lost the belt.
And you went flying off a scaffold.
And even then, in the end of that match, it wasn't KC who beat me. It was the formation of a new group with Truck and AEOU and Archie all at the ring, and all of them were in the ring. And AEOU, along with KC and Truck, putting me through a ladder that was wedged between 2 other ladders, to take the title. And then we went to Beardstown the following weekend, and I won the belt back. And then he got his automatic rematch in Athens, and
Brass Knucks played in again.
Hit me with the Brass Knucks again. So of the 3 times that I've lost the regional heavyweight championship, all 3 of them have not been clean.
And you've had a few more shots at the belt afterward. Finishing Brawltoberfest last year in a dead heat with Scotty Cash.
To a triple threat match in November of that year with Scotty Cash and him when Truck pulled me out of the ring and beat me all the way outside.
Yeah.
The only title match that we'll get to that. We'll cover that later. We're not that far in the timeline.
No.
That was a string of, it was rematches, but it was also that was what was wanted. And no one expected the title to change hands outside of Springfield. That Springfield was the main show. There was times where something happened. Maybe a tag team championship. I don't know the exact. I never looked at the title history.
I know some of the titles changed hands in Southern View.
Right, but
I guess that counts.
Yeah, but it gives something extra for those fans that come to the shows that we were running in Beardstown, Auburn, Jacksonville.
Yeah.
All those different shows that we were doing, plus all the festival shows, it gives them something to look forward to. Like, hey, the title changed hands then. Who's to say what could happen the next time they're there? That was a string of and of course the one match that I win in Beardstown, Archie's nowhere to be found.
He was there,
but nowhere. It
was just AOU was banned.
Right.
It was Truck Thompson doing all the heavy lifting, and then eventually he messed up.
Truck Thompson speared his own buddy.
Yeah.
And paid the price for it. And then for a long, long time after that, it seemed like I was just getting mauled, getting torn up. I spent the most of the first part of this year fighting and surviving for my job. It was
against the regime.
Against any of the members of the regime.
Yeah.
I wrestled AOU a few times, and it was all with different partners. And it was always
some were better than others.
Yep. And then
I won't mention the worst one.
And then Truck. I wrestled Truck, 3 times. And, every time it was a dogfight. Every time it was a 3-on-1 or a 4-on-1.
You finally had a breakthrough.
At
Breakthrough.
At Breakthrough, yes. I finally got my wish. Archie actually pushed me from the apron through a table to the outside to win the match for his buddy Truck, only to have it reversed because he didn't want that to happen that way.
He wanted you.
He wanted me to
wanted your
beat.
career ended.
Yes.
Really much.
And then I rolled back in and caught Truck in mid-spear into a brainbuster and put that part away. And then Archie, he shut me out for so many shows, and he just wouldn't let me have what I wanted up until then.
Yeah.
And then finally, when I got what I wanted to prove a point that Archie wasn't going to get the best of me. And, did I take it a little too far with the career versus presidency thing?
You had no choice in the matter, really.
Right. I mean, could I have stopped and just said, hey, I'm going to beat Archie fair and square? Yes, I could have. But I've always been, no matter where I've been, New Midwest, PWA, PWG at the time, I've always been that guy who puts the company name on my shoulders and says, I'm going to go march out there and I'm going to defend our company. And Archie was running roughshod, and I had to defend the name of the company. And if I would have lost, yes, that would have 100% been on me. But me winning that meant that he was gone from presidency. So that to me meant more than just a pinfall victory.
And yes, along the way, AOU was shown the door after a impromptu tag match. I guess it was under Loser Leaves Town stipulation then.
I think in all honesty that Stephanie King was just extremely mad that her boys, the former however many time PWA Tag Team Champions, couldn't beat me and Lander. Even though they had done it on more than one occasion, in singles, all the time, they had beaten us.
Yeah.
But yet, we throw a tag match out there with me and Lander in street clothes. They attacked us in street clothes and made us fight right then. Archie made us fight as we were dressed. And she was just mad that her boys couldn't beat us in street clothes and showed them the door. It was a very weird, awkward setting because you don't expect that, especially with as dominant as a tag team as they were. You didn't expect that. You don't expect your manager to say, "Hey, you guys can't cut it anymore. Get out."
Then eventually, with Archie out of the way, Lander had no issues, had no interference. He could wrestle Casey just on a strictly one-on-one basis. He pulled it off. He won the title, and throughout the summer came and went. You had your match with Lander. There was chatter, I've heard chatter that it was going to be your last championship opportunity in the main event at PWA, which I was trying to figure out, how's that possible?
Yeah, that was, I don't even know. Like, I don't know who it came from. I don't know where. But, it's kind of one of those things when you're the guy for so long. For almost 3 years, I was the guy. Whether I was holding the belt or not, I was the guy. And I think at some point, whether it's management or, a foul employee, whoever it was, didn't want me in that spot anymore. And they told me that before my match, they said, "This is it. If you don't win this one, we're not giving you another one." And that to me stung me the wrong way. Because I've always been a guy who, I'm straightforward. If you don't want me to do something, that's fine. But just, have the guts to say it to my face and say, "Hey, you're not doing this anymore. You can't do this anymore." But to hear it come from through the rumor.
Some member.
Right.
I don't know.
To hear it
If
come
was
from
the
hearsay.
board of directors, it wasn't me.
Right.
I admit I'm a board member, but I'm not the one who did it.
To hear it come from a rumor out of someone's mouth that I was having my last championship opportunity, that felt like, what has that person done that I haven't? Because if they've been watching the product, they know that I'm the guy. So if they didn't want me in that spot, that's fine, but apparently they pushed the right buttons. And I mean, with Lander, that was also the very first championship match that I've lost 100% clean.
Well, the other thing was he had 2 other matches prior to that. So he's put about 100, close to 200 miles.
Yep.
2 matches, 200 miles. And he comes back to Springfield, just guns it from that tune, and then wrestles you in the final match. He's already kind of beat up and not 100%.
Right. And a lapse of judgment. He kicks out of the brainbuster, which not a lot of people had done for a long, long time. And I tried to go to the well again, much like the very first time that I lost against the heavyweight champion. I tried to go to the well again and hit him with another brainbuster, and he dropped me on my head. He dropped me on my head more than once that match. But the pile driver is a nasty move. It's one of those. Is
there a pile driver or?
It was a
double
variation.
unhook. I think it's a super pedigree is what it is. Or, I don't know. Pedigree combined with a pile driver.
Right.
Something like that.
But
here's where I think the rumor may have started. And I'm just speculating. You had some distractions over the summer. That's why we didn't see you at Take Me Out to the Brawl game or Quake on the Lake or either one of the festival shows.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what's going on. That's why I kind of wanted to get you on. I don't know if this is going to air on PWCI. It may not. It's too long now because we're at 40 minutes. I'd have to
Ah.
split this thing in half, so it's going to go on the PWA YouTube channel is where it's going to end up.
That's fine. You can do that.
What have you've had some challenges, haven't you?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's been a lot of. I'm 25 years old.
You're only 25?
Yes.
I thought you were a little older.
Nope.
Man, I didn't know. So you're still pretty young.
Yes, and I've been wrestling for 8 years.
Yeah.
So, in terms of competition.
Probably one of the most successful to come out of the PWA Training Center.
Yeah, I mean.
Or not PWA, MBS.
Right. And it's, it just took its toll, and I never from the time that I won the regional championship back in 2015.
Yeah.
I'd never taken a break. I never missed a show for almost 4 years. I've been always on and on, and it caught up. And with the match with Archie, it wasn't so much the match with Archie that caused it, but the match with Archie after that, it was kind of that. I felt relaxed after that match to a point that I hadn't in a long time. So I wanted to keep the momentum up and just take a minute to just breathe and relax. And like I said, it's something that I haven't done in so long, and I told them that I couldn't make one show, and it was never brought up again until the championship match in Springfield. And even then, it was it's life sometimes, and you don't plan for it. I certainly never planned at 25 that I would be as successful as I've been, but B, it's 8 years has taken that toll on my body to where it's it's overwhelming at times to have to get up and pull yourself together and say, hey, you have another show this weekend.
And you weren't just doing PWA.
Oh, no.
You're doing CIPW too, and you were a tag champ by yourself most of the time.
Yep.
Except the day that you lost
the day that I
belt.
lost the titles was the first day that my tag partner was with me.
That was a festival show.
Yep. But that was the only show that I did, and I only agreed to that because I got a 100% guarantee that my tag partner was going to be there, and that was on a whim. Yeah, I mean, to say that it's been rough the past few months is an understatement. But I've always tackled everything head on, and with that Halloween, I feel like the momentum is starting to come back. I'm starting to get. Maybe it was just taking a couple shows off.
The summer.
Right. Taking the whole summer off to regroup. It's only time will tell.
But then the time will tell, but then the time may not be running for very long because out of nowhere, and I thought he retired. Well, I shouldn't have thought he retired, but he wasn't wrestling for PWA and wrestled for PWA since he lost to Chase King back in February.
Yep.
He disappeared and comes and jumps you after a match is over, after the show is over, basically.
Yep. At the end of the Lander title match.
One shall fall.
It hit, and I didn't even know until basically he had picked me up for his finisher that I actually caught a glimpse of who it was. And it's the ghost of the past.
Christmas past.
They always come back. They always come back to haunt you. And Tom Arson reemerged once again and made his point very clear that I had done something to piss him off,
or he held a grudge for 3 years.
Yeah,
and
very,
never
very
tried
long.
to settle his grudge anywhere in the interim.
And that's why at the end of Halloween I said what I had to say. For the longest time, every person I had championship matches as just the regional, and then as the regional heavyweight champion, I had the same guys at least 3-4 times. He could have easily went to the board of directors and said, "Hey,
Or
I never got my
President Archie, for that matter.
I never got my rematch. I want a championship match." Or just say, "Hey, I'm going to fight him," and they would have booked it. But he didn't. He just stayed in the shadows and did whatever he did. He said that he grieved at home and couldn't,
Grieved at home.
he
My
couldn't
goodness.
come to terms with the fact that he lost the title to me and that he wasn't the same afterwards. But
Either that, or he just woke up one day and says,
snap.
"This is why
Yep.
I'm not doing so well. This is why my wrestling career has kind of floundered in PWA.
Right.
I came back, but it didn't go anywhere."
I mean, whatever it is, we'll get it all ironed out.
And now it's Loser Leaves Town after he cost you Brawltoberfest. You were in the ring with KC,
I had the
and
victory
then Brass
once
Nuts
again.
showed up again.
It seems like they'll just follow me around, no matter when the time comes, when it's all said and done. I'm sure Brass Knuckles at some point in my later life will find me somewhere, and somebody in a joking term will send me a package to my house with brass knuckles in it or something. It's just destined to happen, and who can say that what he did was justified or not.
Yeah.
I've always taken things, no matter if anyone's hit me from behind, hit me from the front, no matter who's attacked me ever, I've always taken it as, all right, now you're going to have to get it. But at Brawloween, it wasn't that. At Brawloween, I set one goal in mind, and that was to get back and prove that person who shunned me out of the title picture to say, hey, I'm going to win the Brawloween so that way you don't have an excuse to try to keep me out of here. I'm not going to say that I almost had Lander, but I gave Lander everything that I had. And even through 2 matches, he beat me. So, of course, no one that entered that Brawloween, that Brawltoberfest, no one that entered that Brawltoberfest match had anything on their mind except for the #1 contendership for the Regional Heavyweight Championship.
And now KC is going to get another title shot. He may even be given the title back.
Yep.
Depending on what, I guess, administration decides.
Right. It'd be
And
interesting.
I will not cover in this episode because nothing's been announced, and I haven't explained it to anybody yet. But you'll find out on the PWA Facebook page when the time comes.
Right.
So now you have challenged Tom Arson to Loser Leaves Town, or Loser Leaves PWA,
Yes.
which is my least favorite stick. And I scream at the top of my lungs, no one honors Loser Leaves Town. There, Jordan Perry, I said it.
And it's been two full weeks now since Brawloween. And every time that something happens, there's always fans that message me. There's always people that tag me in posts. There's always chatter. Every time I run into someone who comes to one of the shows, they always come up, and it's amazing that who you are follows. You can see me at Walmart, and a fan will come up and say, "Hey, Derek, I saw you at blah 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 show," and I'll be like, "Yeah, that's cool," and then we can talk about it. There's always something after I make a big announcement, whether it was the career versus the presidency, any of my title defenses, any of my title victories. There's always someone or some people that message me and say, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this? What are you even thinking?" And in all honesty, Arson attacks me at the end of me and Lander. I take that as frustration, as him letting out what he had on me, and we'll call it that.
He has nothing to lose either.
Right. Brawloween, he attacks me. I eliminate him out of the Brawltoberfest. He comes back out to cost me now 100% of my focus, which you saw at the end of Brawloween, is on Tom Arson. I rolled him back into the ring. I introduced his face once again to my boot, and I brainbusted him. Now that Brawloween's over, 100% of it goes back to Tom Arson. And the reason for the loser leaves town, he talked all this big game. He's always talked to whoever will listen. Number one, Tommy Arson will be in the ears of every fan that comes to a show because he's that kind of guy. He thinks that I stole his career, that I stole his spotlight, that I took the belt off of him and went on to the success that he should have had. I've heard the story a million times by every guy that I've ever beaten. He wants me gone. He wants my legacy tarnished. He wants me to no longer exist inside PWA. I have to take that as a threat to say, you know what, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it. I've always wrestled my matches, every single one of them, in the mindset that I have nothing to lose. And that's weird because even though I was champion, I was still in that mindset. Because having nothing to lose in that mindset makes you a dangerous competitor. Because how do you beat a guy who has nothing to lose? He's going to come at you with everything.
That's not how I see it, though.
Right.
I guess you were talking about him having nothing to lose.
Right.
He's been in it. He's been active 18 years, off and on. He's been entered into this. He's one of the first inductees into the Central Illinois Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. He's going into the IWA Wrestling Hall of Fame this year.
Right. Coincidentally, the night before Art of War.
The night before Art of War. He has nothing to lose. If he loses his match, he doesn't care. He rides off into the sunset. He's done what he can do, but he may even still do that. But if he can take someone out with him,
that's always been his goal. If he can take some out with him and ruin their day too, he can.
Or ruin their year, I guess.
Right. But that goes back to what I was saying when I was champion. I always put the company on my shoulders to say, hey, I'm that kind of guy. But now it's time for me to fight for me. And Arson is not going after PWA. Arson is coming after me. And yes, I'm well aware, all of the fans that have told me, I'm well aware that I'm risking my entire PWA career. I'm well aware that if I lose, I may never come back to PWA. I'm well aware of all of this. The only thing on my mindset right now is to beat Tom Arson once again. Because that's what I've done in the past. There was never any talk, because no one expected me to beat Tom Arson to win the second annual Toga Memorial Tournament. No one expected me to beat Tom Arson in a ladder match at Grand Wrestling Spectacle. There was no talk about that. I just stepped up and I did it. Now this time, there's talk. He wants to set out to prove a point. He wants to kill me. He wants to end my career. So I'm going to make sure that I end his career. That's all it is. You know, I understand that I'm risking the entirety of the 6 years that I've been with PWA. I'm risking. Every match that I've had, I'm risking the fact that I may not be able to wrestle another day. That's always been
not in a PWA ring, at least.
Right, but that's the mindset you have to come with. You have to wrestle each match like it's your last, because that's how you get the maximum effort. That's how you get the maximum focus, and that's how you truly present your best self. You always come out, and I've wrestled my entire career like that. You wrestle like there's no tomorrow, and that is the side that everybody sees. That's the side that everybody latches onto because they can believe in it. They see that passion pouring out of you. And Lander even mentioned it at the end of the show. Said that he's had 3 matches against 3 different people.
3 different promotions and 3 different cities.
And none of them had the passion that I have for this business. And I took that to heart because every single time that I've ever stepped in those ropes, I've always had a goal out in mind to prove that I'm in my eyes, I'm the best in PWA history to step foot in the ropes. And I have to go out there and prove that in order to prove something to myself. And what's a better way to prove that than to test yourself? And this is what it is. Another test to say, hey, you're sticking your whole career out on the line, but the reward for that is well worth the idea, the possibility of the consequence of you may lose your career. if I can do this and vanquish my ghosts of Christmas past, if I can do this and beat Tom Arson once again, he's done. He's done with PWA. He's out of my hair for good, and I can turn my attention back and focus on the PWA Regional Heavyweight Championship and on many, many, many things in front of me. You know, there's all sorts of new guys that have come into PWA that I've never got the chance to wrestle. And who's to say that after this match is just, you know, this match is all that's on my mind right now. It's all my focus. But I can't look towards the end. Because if I look towards the end, then I've already admitted defeat. And I might as well not even show up on the 10th. But November 10th, I'm going to walk into the building with the same confidence every single day of my 539-day title reign. All of the other 2 title reigns behind that. Everything that I've done in my PWA career, it's all going to be balled up on my shoulders to walk into Art of War with. So, you know, there's people out there that think that I'm coming in with a disadvantage to say, you're risking a whole awful lot just to prove a point. But in reality, the way I see it is, I've done this for so long. He's done it, you know, many, many years ahead of me. But I want to prove that I can be just as dangerous as he is. And that's why loser leaves town, loser leaves PWA, however you write it up. That's why it has to be how it has to be. So.
Well, as I've learned recently, always hope for the best, always be prepared for the worst, and always have a contingency plan when the worst happens.
Right. And life goes on. You know, if I lose, you know.
Well, there's another. I know you have a lot in these PWA. They want it. It's not just Tom Arson that wants you got out there.
You're right. There will be a lot of people, if I lose on November 10th, there will be a whole lot of people that have very good nights.
Or they may even get involved.
Right. And, you know, but that's the cool thing. You know, every time that I've wrestled Arson, whether as champion, as challenger, it's always been he wants to do it his own self. There's been times, you know, when he has been in groups and tag teams and factions where it's been multiple guys, but the Tom Arson that I know, that I've wrestled against on multiple occasions, he wants to do it himself because he will scream until everyone has heard it that he is the best, that he is the pinnacle of prosperity, as he likes to coin it, that he is at the top of the mountain. And he would not have a victory like that tarnished because he had someone come out and help him. But as my career has always unfolded, you always expect that there's going to be someone else. There's going to be somebody that's involved some way, shape, or form, and you always prepare for it. But, you know, it's just one of those things that we'll have to wait and see. And I feel confident as ever that I'm going to walk in, I'm going to handle my business, and Tom Arson will go into the Hall of Fame with one last loss on his record, and he will leave PWA. And for your enjoyment, for however long that lasts, because
or my horror.
Right. So you can scream at the top of your lungs again that it's never honored. He may come back, but
and you may come back.
Right.
Well, hopefully. I hate to lose a member of the roster either way, but it's going to have to see what happens, I guess. But thank you for staying with me for the last hour or so. And
if we come to a point where we lose each other in this end of the loser leaves town or whenever it happens, we'll catch up and we'll have that conversation. That, you know, for all of these years that we've known each other, you know, you saw me when I was nothing, when I was just a guy who took a lot of losses and didn't really have much offense.
And you're the winningest wrestler in
and
PWA,
now I'm
the only one who has more than 40 career victories in PWA, the only one.
Right. So
the next person's 10 behind you.
And you take the good with the bad there. You know, you've seen everything. You've seen the lowest of lows, you've seen the highest of highs. So, you know, if that comes to an end, then we'll have that other conversation for a different time. But if not, then we'll go business as usual, and I'll see you in
Whenever.
2 weeks time after that. I think 2 or 3 weeks
Maybe.
for the December. Something like that.
'Twas the fight before Christmas. All right. Well, thank you all for watching this on YouTube for the past hour. I am the Mad Conservative Crime Fighter. He is the young thriller Derek Moss, 3-time regional heavyweight champion. We'll see you soon. See ya at Art of War on November the 10th at the 8th Street Gym, 1401 North 8th Street in Springfield. Tickets are on sale online at tiny.cc/PWATIX if you want to get them ahead of time. But follow us on PWA Springfield, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and YouTube. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.